And 3, 2, 1. Welcome to LibernetLIVE. Libernet is a project alongside with WIP Publishing, Work in Progress Publishing, that wants to and aims to bring books to the blockchain in the effort to liberate and democratize human knowledge. And I am joined tonight by Jillian Garcia. Hello, Jillian.
Hello. How are you?
Pleasure to have you here. And this is really this episode is really kind of a different pace because we have sort of been, the past 2 months has been a sort of podcast to prepare for this this actual launch of the publishing company, and now we've just done it. And both of our books are NFTs, and they're on the blockchain, and you can purchase them right now. And we've already got. We know that you said that Rizzle may have bought all of our books. I mean, I haven't checked because it's been such a manic week. But I know that there's some guy who bought my book at 4, and that was when it really hit me. I was just like, oh man, people have bought my book. It was just like as a first time author, it's just crazy. So how has it been for you, Jillian? Like with all
well, I'm delighted. Rizzle, whom I haven't met, I want to extend a personal vote of gratitude to him because I have published many times before, all self-publishing.
Yes.
And when people do buy your book, it's super. And normally, like the last book that I did prior to this was a book about blockchain. Actually, I have it here. Persons of interest. And but so the hard thing is nice. The paperback, but the ebook is only for 99 cents. So it was really nice to sell one copy yesterday for about $29. I was like going, woo! I am made.
It is astounding. The thing about people who are familiar with the show sort of must understand why we value NFTs above traditional ways of doing this. And I'm reminded of a dear friend of mine who I love very much as a friend, having really kind of being angry about the fact that it's released as an NFT and the fact that you have to learn how to use OpenSea, which a link will be in the description for both mine and Jillian's books and the whole gallery. And the fact that it's in cryptocurrency, the fact that it's more expensive than the average ebook, and I just had to sort of say in the end, because I could have been like confrontational, but I was just like, I love you, man. You mean a lot to me, and just wait and see what because otherwise it'd be that, or we'd get into like a 2-hour-long debate about. Which always comes down to sort of, Jimmy, why are you trying to change the world? Why are you trying to do things in a different way? Why can't we do things the way that is normal? And it's a trip. I mean, it's an absolute trip to have them out. I think it's crazy. So your book it's a few things, isn't it? Because you wonderfully sort of described your book briefly on the WIP. The WIP broadcast on Wednesday, and it's an erotica that also deals with sort of a woman's like delving into the crypto world. Am I right in saying that?
I am. You are. It is. I get the correct response. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I wrote it. It's a fiction. Okay, I have to say it's a fiction. It is erotica, so if you are sensitive, please do not buy it. It is not safe for work. It does do things that it reaches the parts that other beers can't reach, and it's caused babies. So I have to give a warning that it's full on. When it gets going, it's full on, but it's a lot of fun because the character, it's actually a trilogy, and the first one, there's only a little bit of Bitcoin in it. There is the promise of what's happening, and then the next two are going to be a lot more to do with Bitcoin, because she's going to solve her life through Bitcoin. And that's the one thing I will say, there is a parallel with my life. It's a fiction, it's a fiction, but there is a parallel with my life in terms of, if you end up being, in your sort of, not a midlife crisis, but you end up with your life totally derailed and everything gone, how do you pull yourself back up again? And if you're not in this world, it's very difficult, very, very difficult. If I wasn't living in the crypto blockchain world, I would not have hoped that I could turn my life around. So it's that's the kind of hope that I want to give out.
That's kind of powerful words in a lot of ways, because I think when people hear Bitcoin, they sort of think about sort of shady operations and just sort of just weird computer stuff that isn't based on reality or whatever. And you know, for lack of a better word, my friend sort of said, you know, you're getting so soaked up in this crypto bullshit. And I don't, as if Bitcoin was like my idol or something that I revered because it was a trendy thing, and it's nothing to do with that at all. I'm fully committed on the idea of doing different things to help the quality of people's experiences, and that's entirely what it's about. It's nothing to do, it's nothing to do with how much I've got on my Coinbase or the technology behind this, or you know, like when it uptrends, when it downtrends, or in all this mining, anything to do with that. I've seen in the last 2 months, to sort of, you know, as I sort of circled back to when I first started on this sort of journey 2 months ago, I've seen such profound positivity and such profound connections and liberations, and people really improving the quality of their life, myself included, now that I get to do this for a living. It's astounding. And when I hear stories like you, as you wonderfully put, about turning your life around, you know, my only question is like, what's not to appreciate about this whole change, you know?
No, it's cool. I think people, you're making reference there to the fact that people would say, oh, cryptocurrencies, it's the dark web, and it's all, you know. And I think people are moving beyond that now. Change is scary. The status quo, we're not very happy with cryptocurrencies because primarily as a financial push, it does remove intermediaries. So obviously banks and financial institutions do not want it. Having said that, all the time that the banks were giving off about cryptocurrencies, they're all taking patents out, they're all exploring, they're all bringing blockchain, you know, it's the saying one thing. And like Jamie Dimon is a very good example, the managing director of JP Morgan. My first job was with JP Morgan in London, actually. But he spent so long saying it was a Ponzi scheme. And then at the end of 2019, JP Morgan brought out their own JPM coin. So it's just, I think people are realizing that it's not a Ponzi scheme, it's maths based. And I like to go back to what you were saying about the warm, fuzzy feelings you have about this space. I've been in fintech for 30 plus years, and I know that I went through the dot-com boom. Dot-com boom was very interesting. It was a lot of innovative, smart people working on new tech, and they rethought things. So if you think back, before the dot-com boom, people didn't buy clothes online as a rule. I mean, you had the mail order stuff back in the day, but they didn't. You know, remember boo.com that came and went? You know, there were all these things. People didn't buy books online. They went into a bookshop. They thought, oh, why would I spend all that money in postage? It just didn't happen. And now, of course, it happens all the time. People, you know, millennials only buy stuff online. But I think what's interesting about comparing the dot-com boom with the blockchain, this push that we're in now.
Maybe the .eth boom to be sort of parallel. Or whatever.
Yeah, very good. I'm stealing. There's a third element, and you made reference to it. The people who are working in the space, they genuinely want to make the world a better place. And it's not hippy-dippy stuff. It's, yes, I want to be successful. Yes, I want to sell books, make money, have a big business, whatever. But I want to do it in such a way that's respectful to people around me. It's considerate of the environment. And it's also, you know, helping your employees, your customers. It's all those things about the old-fashioned you can be a successful business person and do good, you know, and it's putting the do good back into the world, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, to sort of get like economical and political, as I seem to always fall into when I do these podcasts. It's interesting. I often think about you know, people sort of comparing capital. You know, when people talk about capitalism, I don't think it points to something like people can agree on, because I don't, like, one thing I've sort of noticed is that even if you are against capitalism, business would still exist. And again, even in an anarcho-communist world, business would still exist. You still need people to, like, you know, to manage the food and manage the art and all the rest of it. And those things will be done by businessmen. I think when people talk about capitalism, they often talk about very specific circumstances that are happening now, such as emotional labor and sucking up to a boss and particular hierarchies, and you know, being conditioned to fear making mistakes, which is a huge one. I mean, I watched this this sort of professor talking lecture, and he says what we're doing in the education system is that we are conditioning children to sort of to out of their creative instincts. We you know, through because a mistake is the worst thing you can do in education, and it even falls into work a lot of the time, unless you happen to want to do something totally different that if you fail, you learn, and if you succeed, you change the world. And all of these sorts of Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk have always done things against the grain. And we only idolize them once we see their success stories. But you listen back to these people's stories, and they were like living in an office, in a cardboard box, perhaps, and this is the sort of
you know what you were saying. I really like the idea that, and this is so true about education. A child is learning to read, and they want to spell cat, and they go COT, perhaps, right? The instinct of the grown-up, the adult, or the teacher is to say, "Oh no, that's wrong. The A is wrong. You should have an A, not an O," rather than saying, "Wow, you got the C and the T right.
Yes.
Let's work on the middle bit."
Absolutely.
And it's the whole wrong way around. So a child is almost punished for getting anything wrong rather than getting 2/3 of the word right.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. Fear of failure stifles people. You don't take risks if you fear failure.
Absolutely. And when you see something like NFTs, this sort of thing emerging from the horizon, why wouldn't you want to make the mistake, if it is a mistake, and try something different that already if I'm right in saying that at least Rizzle and that other man, I won't mention his name if he wants to remain anonymous, has bought my book, I've already made $50 at least just from those 2 sales.
You sold 2. You rotter. I've only sold 1, I think. Oh, I'm really cross now.
Oh, I'm so yeah. I mean, I didn't. I mean, when I went into it, I didn't expect to sell. Like, I was going into it with absolutely no expectation. I didn't know how much money I was going to get. Didn't know who was going to read it. I didn't know how much it was going to cost people. But I wanted to take the plunge, and I believe that I took the plunge. I believe that the plunge was necessary because, experimentation is so important. And especially if you see how much good it's already doing. And I think this is something that people are scared of. They're scared of failure. Why can't you do it the Amazon way that's been tried and tested? And it's like, yes, it's tried and tested, which is exactly why I don't want to do it like that. And this is, I'm not like angry at the world or anything, but like but I'm always looking to change, looking for different ways of doing things. And I think that's the perfect way to do it. I think all the best things come from people who are willing to experiment and change.
But also, there's a fundamental fairness approach, because if you look at Amazon and you look at Spotify, you look at all where artists, writers, or musicians sell their work, and they use those intermediaries because people who are buying know that they're buying the genuine article. They're not buying a rip-off, whatever. But the money all goes to the middlemen. Amazon makes a fortune, so does Spotify. And the writers and the musicians get paid very little. That's why Kings of Leon launched their 8th album as an NFT.
Yeah.
And because they could guarantee that something like 90% of the income went to the band. I think the band in turn donated a lot of it to roadies who were off the road because of COVID. But it's just, Spotify is shocking. Yes. That musicians get so little from that. Mm-hmm. And the same with Amazon. Amazon is they take a huge amount. And okay, it's clever. They've delivered a service. Great. But can we upgrade it a bit? And can we recognize that it's a bit like you're a farmer, perhaps, and you spend 2 years, and I know you're a vegan, so apologies for this example.
It's okay. It's fine.
2 years growing an animal. And then the supermarket does a little bit of piggery, jokery, whatever, and they get the biggest profit. It doesn't make any sense. And my daughters are vegan, and but just that makes no sense. So the same way, Amazon shouldn't be making that big profits. It's wrong. It's wrong, yeah. And also Amazon, the way they do now, I don't know about Spotify. Well, actually, no, Spotify is the same. It's not straightforward either. The rules aren't simple, and they stagger things, and then they often, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, they see something that's doing well, they'll copy it and they'll sell it themselves. So it's like you're putting yourself into this mix where you're not going to be paid properly. And even how you get promoted, there's all sorts of shenanigans that go on. That's not fair. So why not try to level the playing
Absolutely. Level the playing field. It is definitely. Yeah. I
mix up my things all the time. So just so you're.
I got something wrong. Like it was quite cold outside, and then my friend was like, "Oh, I won't put the coat on yet because it's like because then I'll get used to it." And I was like, "Oh, it's like your secret weapon or your backup." Like, I couldn't find the right phrase. It was really funny. I mean, yeah, it is so true that
that the playing field, not even like out of brute force, but through collective collaborative help and people working together, it is sort of inevitable that people, that progress will happen, and people will find ways to make things better in some way or another. It's not to say it's not done without people, and the thing about natural progress is that it still has to be done by people, and this is the
you gotta, the old thing about making an omelet, you gotta break some eggs, but
yes.
sometimes the way things have been done doesn't make them right, and you can institutionalize injustice because it's been done that way for a while or a period, and it's like, oh, that's the way it's done.
Yeah.
Well, why? Why is it done that way? Have we thought about it?
Yeah.
And let's rethink it a bit, and let's just try something else, try something that, and is it fair? I remember I went on a course a number of years ago, and it was a really clever course, and there's one expression that the leader came up with. It was all about living better lives, and it was all a bit hippy dippy, but quite a nice course. But he used this expression, it's not whether it's right or wrong, because right and wrong changes. Like women didn't have the vote, now they do. Homosexuality was illegal, now it's not. So there are things that are right and wrong, and absolutely right and wrong, that change. And his term was, so you don't use the term what's right and what's wrong, because they change between cultures and worlds and times and all the rest of it. But he used the expression what works. I'm thinking that's a really clever thing. For example, he used the example of pedophilia, and he said, because he was a lawyer, this man, a lecturer, and he brought in laws in the US to outlaw pedophilia and make it a crime, but he had to do it state by state because each state has their own set of laws. And it was, you think it would be a fairly obvious thing to do, but it took a long time. But again, he said, what works? He said, it's not a question, is it right or wrong? Because in some cultures, things like child brides are allowed, but the culture. So you have to, but does it work for an 11-year-old child, especially typically a woman, to be married to a 50-year-old man? Step back from that. Not whether it's right or wrong. Not if the culture says, whether it's right or wrong. Does it work for that 11-year-old child?
This reminds me of something Sadhguru says, which both refers to what you're saying, what he's saying, and what we've been saying over the past 20 minutes. And Sadhguru believes, in no identity, and sort of going with the flow and not creating abstract principles. And then someone asked him, it's like, if you're just so meditative and just are so satisfied with the world, then why are you creating all of these sort of projects to help people get drinking water? It sounds quite political and sounds quite, like you aren't satisfied. And if you haven't got any moral principles in a sort of formal way, then why are you doing this? And Sadhguru's answer was simple. He said, it's because it comes naturally to me. And it's a different way of thinking about it than sort of finding abstract moral principles. I mean, in my book, this is sort of one of the chief, I'm not really too focused on morals. In one small chapter I am, but it's, in the same way that you're saying right and wrong is kind of the wrong way of thinking about it, and it's more about usefulness. It's pretty, when I discuss language, I'm sort of following from what Wittgenstein said, and sort of saying, it isn't, words aren't primarily pointing to the truth. They're primarily tools that we use to communicate. And my big thing is that we have I don't know what you call it, just like a landfill of bad tools that we would do better than to modify. But then I sort of really try and go to the heart of this and talk about being free and spiritually whole characters in the world. And this is and my kind of principle is that modern experience conditions us away from this, and we would do better to sort of recognize sort of in what ways we are chained by concepts. And this is it's an interesting thing. I mean, Dylan wrote the foreword for it, and it's so interesting to sort of see the connection between what I'm trying to say in the book and how I'm publishing it, because I'm being iconoclastic and I'm breaking boundaries and I'm doing things in a way that isn't normally done. And this is kind of the ethos of the book itself, which is just, and I'm sure you've got a similar thing. Your thing is about a young lady that finds herself in the crypto world, and you're publishing it on the blockchain, which is interesting. So yeah.
But words are, you were saying about words, and it reminds me, maybe in a similar theme or not, whatever. But the same word, a slut,
yeah,
sexually active young woman.
Mm-hmm.
two completely different things for the same thing. But one has, so, you know, you were saying that words, they're very bad tools, or maybe they're very effective tools because you use them to propagate one set of truths against another. But, you know, it's true. It's not, words are funny. They're lovely. They're interesting. They're charming. They're powerful, but it depends how you use them.
Absolutely. I'm quite lucky to sort of, I don't know, even in the past, like 6, maybe 5 years, the word slut is just, I don't hear it at all anymore. It is not acceptable to call a woman a slut.
It was also, it's not even that it's a derogatory term, you know, it's also the same equivalent in a man.
Yeah,
was called a boyo or whatever, you know, it was a rake and he was a whatever, but it was all very positive, you know, you're going to you know, sow your seed and whatever, I don't know, your wild oats, whatever.
A key that can pick many locks is a good key, all of that ridiculous nonsense. And it's all this sort of ideological justification for or ideological justification for things that are just ordinary or normal to us, and we'll always find a way to rationalize it. You know, it's like, oh, I do this thing because, and then then you have to create a sort of rationalized reason for it, when in fact that's not actually why at all. I had an interesting conversation with someone with a different personality type as me. You know, she was an INFJ, I was an ENFP. And she was trying to justify why she wanted to stay organized and sort of had fixed goals and kept things sort of ordered in her head, as if it was like an objective, rational, this is obviously the way it should be done, when really it was her personality type that she then had to try and rationalize. But we do this in so many deep ways. I mean, like, you know, like people who talk about the 9-to-5 experience as, you know, well, you get up, you go to work, and then when it's the end of the day, you know, and it seems normal to us, when in fact, you know, and now with DAOs, when things are changing and people are able to work when they want, however they want, for as long as they want, people are just averse to that whole idea. It's like, well, that's not good. That's you know, and people can't see past the end of their ideological nose, I would say, you know.
Do you not think, though, when you're saying people nowadays that can work whatever hours they want, and mostly because of like COVID disrupting the whole world and work, but do you not think you end up working twice as hard and twice as long?
It's
you know, you're meant to take those extra hours and put them into the family, but oftentimes people put it into the work still from home.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the thing, and again, like, you know, I do not see the sort of these introduction of the DAOs as like this perfect solution to a problem that's objectively bad in every way, but it gives people the option to do that, and I think that's what makes me attracted to it. It's like, you can work a 9-to-5 if you really do like that routine, but a lot of people bloody hate it, and a lot of people are just a lot of people love to do sort of stuff that, like, you know, stuff like working in a DAO and working with communities where we don't have to we don't have to worry about making mistakes and being afraid of our superiors and all the rest of that. Perhaps people end up working harder, you know, but you know, it is that question of, like, you know, giving people more options to choose what they want to choose, and sort of and in the same way, sort of getting people to sort of empty their ideological prejudices. I think I think that's probably the big thing that makes me attracted to this about this whole thing. It's like, it's getting people to question their ideological prejudices.
I like what you said, and my takeaway, even though we're only halfway through chatting, whatever, is not being afraid to make mistakes. And that whole culture of making a mistake, you're punished for it. And if you're going to be punished for it, you're not going to put your hand up, are you, and suggest something or say something, because if you get it wrong, you get punished, rather than saying, great for trying. Doesn't work in this case, you know, better luck next time. Well, that's a very powerful thought.
I mean, I would even go further than that. I would say, oh, you did it differently. That's like that should be rewarded in its own way. You tried to do it this way, you did it with a different method. Let's not even just like neutrally, oh, that's well done for trying, but in some cases it can be even better to do things the way that isn't normal. And obviously that's the way that every single successful business has been created. I mean, name one that hasn't been done through taking a huge risk and also, like, it's hard to sort of find a business in which the CEO or the founder hasn't failed multiple times. I'm sure even Dylan can agree with me in his efforts to try and, you know, realize himself as a proper author. And in the foreword of my book, you can even hear, like, you know, we had a bit of a tension, because Dylan was sort of saying, you know, because I was writing this philosophy book, And Dylan said, you know, you're in for a world of pain. You know, the publishing industry is cutthroat. You know, why write? And I was like, I can't stop. It's in my blood, so to speak. I cannot, I have to. It's not even that I want to write this book. I have to write this book. And I think all artists.
Do you write every day then? Is that what you do? What's your writing pattern?
I mean, I haven't in a while. I mean, I've spent the past week sort of finishing up the book, so it's now released as an NFT. I would, for months, every day, all day, I'd be writing. And the thing is, I didn't even know how to write. I wasn't very good at it. So I spent like years just trying to write this book, not even knowing, you know, my writing would be clunky and it wouldn't make sense and it'd be confusing and I would contradict myself. But I just had to write this book. It was like something was possessing me. It was very strange. But I do think art works in that way, you know. Like that song Street Spirit, Radiohead. You know, Tom York said, I didn't even choose to write that song. It's like it chose me for me to write it. And I think artists do think about it in this way. So when we sort of talk about creative, just, you know, being aloof, being against the curve, being, you know, not being normal, you know, like just do something productive or whatever. It's like you cannot tell a creative person, if they are sort of manically creative, you cannot say, oh, just do something else. You like it is an impulse. It is something, you know, it's something that people have that they're sort of compelled to do, and it's so important for that, because people who are manically creative in that way normally produce really great art that's really important and socially significant and politically significant and spiritually significant.
What about if you're not a manic creative?
Well, this is an interesting thing I've been thinking about, because I think there are sort of two levels of creativity. There's the sort of manic creatives, and then there's the kind of base level creativity that I think all human beings have. And in both cases, the manically creative should be given sort of the tools to be like, oh, I'm a manic creative. This is my sort of, not my destiny. I don't like the word destiny or fate or whatever, but this comes naturally to me. This is a natural thing that comes naturally. And then the other side of it is just I think all people have a natural tendency to be creative. I mean, even in conversation, we're creating sentences. You know, this is a good example of sort of a natural, like universal creativity. And even in that case, people should be encouraged to reach the creative outputs that they feel come naturally to them. And in both cases, they're being pushed down by social institutions, by social norms and values, you know.
I'm going to argue that you don't have to be a manic creative to be a top level creative, because I wouldn't consider myself a manic creative, but I write books. Yes. And I would consider myself creative, but at a productive level.
Yes.
But I'm not manic. I mean, I am compelled to do it, but it's not. I tend to do my day job first, and then I go.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. In both, I think in both cases, creativity should be sort of encouraged and expanded upon.
Oh, hugely.
Absolutely. I think, and you are right. I mean, you know, you don't have to be manic creative to create.
I'm feeling very neglected. I'm not a manic creative. Should I be here?
No, of course, no. But I think maybe a sort of maybe I didn't quite explain myself correctly. I think in all cases, you know, in all cases, people's creativity is pushed down because people should do things normally or whatever. And I think this is the principle, one of the principal problems with, you know, our society, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I always said, as a young person growing up, you'd ask what I was. I said, I'm a writer. I'm a writer. I didn't write my first novel till I was 41. And 40. And it's only because I went, oh dear Lord, I'm going to be 40 next birthday. I haven't written where is my novel? Where is my novel? And I sat down and I wrote, and I was working full time, but I wrote a 60,000 word children's novel in like 2 weeks. I just did it anytime I wasn't doing work. Yeah. I wrote, and the plot came very quickly to me. And I just wrote. Maybe I was a bit manic then too as well. But it's funny, it took me until I was 40 before I produced my first book. And I was thinking, God, thank the Lord I'm not Keats, or I'd be dead already. And that would be a bit unfortunate. Or maybe not. Maybe the world would be saved from some of my books.
Yeah. I mean, another thing is like, you know, it's obviously never too late to start. You know, it's never too late. Like, the thing is that, you know, I was watching, what's it called? I think it's the sunken costs fallacy. It's like this whole idea of it's like, you know, let's say you're going to walk a mile to the supermarket, and then you discover halfway a supermarket's closed. You wouldn't go the rest of the way to the supermarket because it's closed. But people do this sort of thinking all the time. Let's say you work 10 years in some sort of corporation and you hate it, but you say, well, I've done 10 years now, I may as well do the rest of it before I get a retirement plan. Or if you're in a relationship, it's like, well, we've been together for so long, even though we can't stand each other, but we may as well keep going. My point.
Is there a name for that?
I think it's the sunken costs fallacy.
Oh, the sunken cost. I misheard the cost. Oh, okay. Yes, that makes sense. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Horrible.
Yes. I mean, but I think with creatives, it's sort of like, you know, I mean, I keep sort of coming back to this kind of this thing, because when we're all sort of talking to each other in the space, we all completely understand each other. We all completely understand why we're doing this. But if I go out into the real world, if I go out into the streets or the bars or whatever,
it's not the real world.
Well, no, the physical.
They're all mad.
I'm starting to believe you, Jillian. I'm starting to believe you. And they are all mad, because I go in and they're sort of like, you know.
Don't listen to them. Don't listen to them.
I know. But you're right. I mean, you know, you go out and they're sort of like, oh, well, I've worked this job, you know, may as well continue. And it's like, well, you hate it? It's like, yeah. And I'm like, what on earth, you know? Or like, you know, I've lived in England for so long. I don't like the country, but I may as well stay. And it's like, no, go somewhere else.
No, that sounds a bit. I mean, I can understand you don't make a big, huge life-changing decision. Maybe you've got to support your family, or, you know, there's people dependents that are dependent upon you, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, you're a grown up, you've got to take responsibility for your actions and the impacts that they can have on other people. However, you only have one life to live. You know, and if you don't, because actually, do you know what you say? It reminds me of when I was married. I'm divorced now, but when I was married for 16 years. And when I decided that the marriage wasn't working anymore, and it had been a bit rocky for the last couple of years, not terribly happy. And it was kind of scary, because I never thought I would be divorced. I fell in love. I was in love. You know, I was married with 2 beautiful children. But, and it was very hard. Junie macaronis. You think of all the hard divorces you've heard about, and then add some more in. That's what mine was like. And but looking back on it now, do I regret it? No. Was it tough? Boy, was it tough. Boy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and you know, it's not quite the point of the story, but the hardest part was I thought that the harm it inflicted on my children was bad. And at the time it was horrendous. But the interesting thing is that now that they are grown-up women, 27 and 24, they're amazing women. They are just fantastic. And had I stayed, that sunken cost issue, I would have been a terrible role model for them. Don't be wrong. I'm not saying that, you know, blah, blah, blah. But for me, I would have been, I imagine I would be a bitter, twisted old lady who stayed for what would be the right reasons, which were all the wrong reasons. And it would have been horrendous. So there we go back to the right and wrong. What worked? It was very hard. 10 years, very hard. It was like hard graft. But now my kids are amazing, and they're definitely better for being through that. Not that I would have chosen to have stolen their childhood, but they are better kids.
Wonderful. It is the sunk cost fallacy, if anyone was curious. I just checked.
And that's 2 things I got now: fear of failure for start, and then the sunken cost.
Fallacy. Wow, thank you. Shall we dedicate the last, I don't know, 20 minutes or so to sort of perhaps sort of talking about how to, because I feel it's appropriate. I mean, you know, the conversation's been fantastic, but I think it might be appropriate to sort of tell people about the sort of technicalities of how to buy the book, and sort of why NFTs are valuable. And I'm sure you might have a slightly different perspective on this to me, because I've only been in this world for a couple of months, and a lot of these people have been in this world for years. So yeah, I mean, like, perhaps I'll mention one thing about an NFT. When you, as opposed to an Amazon book, when you buy that book, not only are you sort of still holding on to it on Amazon's terms, which means you can't give it to a friend to borrow, but you also, it's not a token, it's not tokenized, which means that it's not, it doesn't become an asset, it becomes a sort of just a copy of someone's book. When the fact that it's a token, as there are only 100 of each of our books, for example, it means that if you buy the book and you believe in the author and you believe in NFT technologies, or both, and both receive sort of accumulate, you know, sort of like, you know, let's say that, you get recognized more and more as an author, and as such NFTs become recognized more universal, that person who's bought your book can then sell it to someone else for a higher price. And the reason this is, and one of the reasons this is so valuable is because the blockchain is basically nuclear grade technology that monitors all of these and documents all of these transactions transparently. And that's what's so interesting about it. Which is so interesting to sort of, you know, if people, you know, because a lot of people, you know, my friend, I'm not even sure he's particularly interested in my book, but he's interested in NFTs and believes that I'm a good author. So I think he probably will buy the book, and as a result, maybe hold on to it. Let's say that, like, you know, like the LibernetLIVE show kicks off more, then that book becomes more valuable, just like a sports card, just like any sort of collectible item. That's what's so fantastic. I mean, yeah, are there any other sort of benefits that I'm sort of I mean, I have a few others, but
well, cost is one thing, as in value to the author, to the creator. That is something that's been ripped away. And the interesting thing is, so I was speaking with somebody recently, and they were saying, actually, no, I asked them, I said, do you think this is going to be a bubble? Because obviously everything's all NFT at the moment. And he said no. And he said the reason why it's not a bubble is that previously, when we went online, we were sharing copies of everything. So we had copies of book, copies of email, whatever it was never, you could never say definitively, this is the only element, the only thing, the unique thing, the provenance that I can tell you of this online item. Everything digital was a copy of another thing. And the only way you can get around that, for example, with money, was through a bank, and a bank is an intermediary. So when you swap money online through a bank, you know that it is original thing. So the same way with NFTs. So on the one hand, it's fairness for the creators, but also it's just the next evolution of the digital world, where you actually can say, this is a thing, this is unique, no more than in the real world. If I did a painting and I gave it to you, this is my original one. You don't doubt that because you can see it. So it's a way of taking away that doubt and just making a more, not even the valuable thing, but that is nice. You can resell it. People can track the provenance because it's held on the blockchain. But it's just that it's a way of sharing, selling, sending unique digital assets, and that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. I'm just going to share my screen. I think it wouldn't make sense if I didn't show people exactly what to do and what they're going to come across. So you're going to go onto OpenSea.io. Let me just share my screen now. Oh, I haven't done this before. Desktop 1. I think we'll go for that. Let's try this. See, I'm normally the one getting them to share their screen. So let me just close this. And then we're OpenSea assets, WIP publishing. I'm sure if you just type in WIP publishing on Google, something appropriate will come up. And here,
of course, WIP being work in progress, and
WIP being work in progress, exactly. You know, as Dylan wonderfully put last week, you know, sort of bringing punk back into the writing world in the same way that punk bands won't listen to what record labels tell them, and they'll just make music however they want to make it, roughly speaking. But here we go through, if you can see everything, this is my book. It's 100 Ethereum, and then we just find your book. This seems to and
actually it's 0.01 of Ethereum.
0.01, that's right. Yeah.
About
So
$29.
That's right. And then here is your book. Let me just click that.
Yay.
And then if I were to we have two owners here, which means
I think WIP is one, and then Rizzle is the second.
Rizzle's the other one.
Need some more. I need another 98 owners.
Absolutely. So do I. And not only can you let me just move this down.
Yeah, $29. Yeah.
Yeah, $29, 0.1 Ethereum, 0.01 Ethereum, what was I meant to say? And not only can you buy the book, and that becomes your token that is sort of, you know, it's permanently yours unless you want to sell it, but you can also click this icon here and you can view the book. And and this is for people that simply want to just want to have a look and see what the contents are inside, and then you just have search Cryptomaniac, and I assume all the following pages will follow, and this is
I didn't realize that. That's interesting. So it's like a preview.
It's like a preview, yeah, it's like a preview, absolutely. And then I'll show you my book. Let me go back. Computer's running pretty slow today. I think it's had its beating this week from and I mean these are all these are all like just just great authors. They're all great people as well. Me and Dylan worked on this one together. This is my book. This is Eric's comic Happy Man right here. This is Robbie's How Not to Be a Dick.
Great title.
How to Not Be a Dick. My mistake. Yeah, and it's amazing because what led them here is always like these sorts of fascinating stories. I mean, I spoke to Robbie, aka Indefatigable, about his experiences, and it is just so noble, and he's such a sweet guy as well. It is just fantastic. And I will click on
your one.
Show you my work. Two owners as well, so we're even.
16 views, more views than mine. Not that we're counting.
Absolutely, and of course, you can do the same thing here, and after this is done, I will be doing more promoting. But if you want to get in touch with me or don't really know how to sort of create a cryptocurrency wallet, I can work something out. I will both in the next couple of days do a sort of online tutorial on how to create a wallet, and I will also probably offer the ability to sort of if I buy the book myself and then you pay me and then I can send, and then I can give it to you as an NFT. That works as well. It really kind of is sort of anything goes with a sort of pretty much with this sort of new world. It is just something so unparalleled. Oh, of course, yeah. And this is yes, you have nothing relating to the most profound.
The author claims to have discovered. Oh, very good.
The author claims to have discovered. Yeah, and this is the short description, and then the long description comes down. Inspiration, things, and then advocates a new form of anarchy, and it's exciting. And then there's my baby face. I thought it was cool. Yeah. I thought it'd be good to have the sky behind me, considering I'm talking so much about emptiness. So I think these sorts of like these mini websites are sort of changing quite constantly, because so much work is being done. But I just want to just give everyone who's working on this a big round of applause.
Is that your first book you were saying?
My first book, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And you've been writing it for years and years and years.
Yeah, I mean, I had if you read the prologue, I had the idea when I was 17. And I was smoking a lot of weed at the time, and I was sort of I was quite nihilistic at the time. I didn't want to be, but I was just kind of like, what is the point in everything? And then I discovered Buddhism, and that was kind of these were kinds of pivotal moments. And I think Buddhism was actually my first kind of philosophy that I got introduced to in a lot of ways. And then I went into the Western philosophies and found that there was something that didn't rub me up the right way. Not that I'm formally trained, educated or qualified in any way with philosophy, but what happened is I sort of just, it was this sort of experience, as you read in the prologue, where I was sort of 20 and I was, I just got afflicted with psychosis, and I was 19. I got spiked with LSD, and then it brought on psychosis, which lasted quite a long time. And it was a few months after that I sort of, I don't know, it was this sort of change in perception where it was like, people will read it, but it was the most profound experience of my life, and I couldn't explain it. And I think this is what the Buddhists were talking about. And I don't think I sort of deserve. I don't think I was sort of like, I earned it or anything. It just happened to me quite randomly, and it was the most profound experience of my life. And from there, I was like, right, there is something here. Why isn't this? What did that experience teach me? And what did it teach me about culture and society and language and concepts, and how they rather than merely sort of creating new ways of thinking, they obstruct the actual world that's in front of us. And we are dealing so unfortunately with obstructions and ways and we don't see the world for how it is. And when you see the world for how it is, it's the most important experience. It's like you woke up, it's like, oh, it's that kind of thing. You're all waking up, and it is, and it's so much more personal than you think it would be. You're sort of, you realize that you've had snippets of these experiences your whole life. And yeah, I mean, as well as sort of being a spiritually inclined book, it's got a spiritual ethos. I wanted to be like, right, I want to do this philosophically. I don't want to just follow in Krishnamurti's steps where he talks about meditation. I want to be like, what's going on here? Let's analyze this. And so, the first half of the book is actually quite technical, and I talk about language and how, and sort of functions of language that prevent us, that sort of encourage ways of thinking that block out the world. For example, to speak is to always sort of imply, it's always, it insists validity of your experience. It's like I'm speaking, it's like, I want to be understood. And we think that speaking is a way to be understood, but there's also the reverse effect where when we speak, we are doubting the validity of our experiences. If we didn't doubt them, we wouldn't need to speak, because I have to try and explain something to you. And in doing so, I have to sort of put myself in a position where like, look, I'm justified. When you don't have this, you have no way of actually validating it, because it's just there. The truth is just there. There's no actual there's no need to mediate it anymore. But this is that was the sort of, yeah, and it is just it's just been, yeah. But I've been writing, yeah. I started writing when I was 17. I was writing like weird diagrams and like notes and stuff of like circles and lines and stuff. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. And then about 2 years ago, I started writing in a sort of way. I was like, okay, I'm trying to understand. Because I'm trying to utter the ineffable. I'm trying to utter what cannot be spoken about, which is sort of so weird about the book and the process of writing it. And about a year ago,
writing about that which cannot be spoken.
Yes. Yeah.
And does that also mean that it's unwritable?
Yes, I mean, the actual experience is unwritable. My way of getting around it is just as a sculpture. With a sculpture, what you do is you don't create the sculpture; you get rid of what is not the sculpture. So you know what I mean. Yeah. So in this, you might understand where I'm coming from. So if if this thing exists, as sort of the real or the nothing, this kind of the real world as empty and idyllic and whatever it is, and just profound. I can't get to the world, but I remove the outside. So I talk so much about the boundaries of language and concepts to the absolute end that eventually, hopefully, you start to see this kind of sculpture of what this actual world looks like. So I'm sort of, it's like a double negative. I sort of use language to dismantle and deconstruct itself. And I've noticed there's two ways of reading the book. One is to sort of go, oh, that makes sense. I guess that makes sense. I guess it's a logical point. That's made me think differently. And then sometimes when I'm just sort of in that other state where I'm not obstructing and I do see the world for how it is, it reads differently, because you sort of read it and you're like, I understand this, but in a way that I can't talk about. It's sort of two levels. So there's one level where you can sort of rationalize and say, oh, I guess that speech would do this because that's the way it works. And the other one is like, it's this emptiness, and the end of the book kind of shows that even the book is relatively meaningless in a lot of ways. And it's kind of a nice round circle where you're sort of like, yep, you've come to this end where you've realized that even this book isn't real, and the things that have been spoken about it aren't real either. Yeah, so
I like it's clever.
Thank you. Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. And I want to, yeah, and I think the mission over the next few days for everyone involved is to just just get, I think just like teach people how to get a hand on this, and know that it's not just, that you could, if you believe in authors like me, authors like you, authors like Eric, authors like Dylan, authors like Robbie, authors like I'm missing someone, and I forget who I'm missing. Sorry?
I don't know either.
I don't know. I'm so sorry to the person. I know there's another one.
No, actually, it's a compliment, because when you figure out who the person is and you say it the next time, they'll never be forgotten. It's like the way you go to if you go to a 7-star hotel. Have you heard that thing what they do? 7-star hotel. They can't give you good enough service, as in good enough, because it's a 7-star hotel. Yeah. So what they do is, the theory is that you go into the bathroom and you're missing a hand towel. This is a 7-star hotel. You ring down. Where's my hand towel? They send up a hand towel delivered by 7 comely maids with bottles of champagne. We'll talk about that experience afterwards. But if they hadn't left it out, you expect it's a 7-star hotel. So the same way, that person who was missed out will be forever famous, more so than us.
It's like, it relates to kind of it's you know, like it is that sort of double negative, you know. It's like in sort of, you know, in sort of not acknowledging, you know, not acknowledging something, you sort of give it the highest acknowledgement in a lot of ways. It is one of those things. But yeah, it's going to be a crazy few weeks for everyone involved, I think, Jillian. And good luck with the book. I'm going to see what my Ethereum wallet is and try and get a handle on some of these copies. You know, and just because, you know, and not only because I want to.
That we're doing like only 10 copies of this Genesis publishing, isn't it? 100 copies.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
That's so cool.
It is cool.
The first editions, digital first editions. That's really
Absolutely.
cool.
And the thing is that you might even see that. And when I was talking to my flatmate about this, I mean, as it's a token, which means that you're going to be able to, you know, to sort of, it might accrue value rather than diminish in value because it's a token, like a sports card, which increases value along with rarity. I noticed that, you know, if there are sort of ways that could be sort of like different or more formalized, or maybe there's an odd typo in a book or something, I actually think that because it's a first edition, that will make it more valuable, because I could buy a Noam Chomsky book in Waterstones for 20 quid. But if I bought Noam Chomsky's scrawled out notes from when he was like very young, and there are only a few of them around, those notes would be way more valuable. And I think the similar thing is going on here. It's just that it's digital and people aren't used to the fact that digital assets can be assets, you know, and we're just going to see like a huge paradigm shift, I think, and it's going to be crazy, you know, and like I said to my friend, it's like a magic trick, I suppose. It's you know, with the people that don't know exactly what the hell we're doing, you know, it's like this is like a magic trick, and people, you know, stand by, I suppose. Anyway, thank you so much, Jillian. Thanks for being the first post-launch guest on the podcast. Good luck with everything.
I was joking on the Discord conversation, the launch that which you were handling. My avatar is on the side, and I can't get it to go upright. So it's very nice to talk to you today with my head at the right direction.
We could have both been, you know, both been left, you know. Yes. Yeah. So I will, you know, I'll talk to you soon about the book, you know, via email form or via Discord if we, you know, once we sort of work out of the way. And I just want to say, so, you know, I just want to thank everyone for the work we've done for this over the last 2 months. It's awe striking. It is unbelievable. Is there anything you'd like to say? You know, besides buy my book as I'll be doing over the next week.
That's what I was going to say. Buy my book. That's it. Buy my book. Buy my book. Buy my book. I'm stuck. Buy my book. Buy my book. Buy my.
Absolutely.
I'm frozen. Buy my book. I have rescue horses that need land. Buy my book. Buy my book.
Absolutely. And also another thing about NFTs is that if you know, you can people can see who's bought the book as well. So like you buying this NFT gives you a direct connection to me and Jillian and everyone in a way.
You know something? This is really cool. I just suddenly think, when I published my first book a long time ago, and it was self-published, and there was the children's book, and I did a lot of work on it, and I was part of lots of different groups, and it was the advice some of them gave to me, they said, everybody lies. So they'll say they've bought your book, but they haven't. And, you know, you'll never know, because they all lie when they, you know, not anymore. It's on the blockchain. So if you've bought my book, I'll know all about it. And if you haven't, I'll also know all about it.
Absolutely.
Nice one. 3 things I learned today. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sort of, you know, in this world, I just sort of learn like more than I could imagine learning like every day. I'm like, you know, even with like sort of what seems like really basic stuff, I'll talk to Dylan and be like, oh, wait, how does this work? And he's like, oh, you do that. I was like, well, you know, because it is like, it's a whole new internet, you know, this is the sort of the web 3.0 rumor or whatever. It is what's the word? Groundbreaking, you know, unprecedented and all the rest of that, just as the internet was, you know, in the beginning. And what's lovely is that there isn't a set plan for where it's going to go, because people will get to decide themselves, and that is the most important, one of the most important parts of how if not the most important part of what changes are happening right now. And buy my book as well, everyone. I'll know.
Buy his book.
Yes. And I will, one thing I should mention is that the positive side of knowing if you've bought my book is that it gives you a connection to me. And I want to maybe promote the way in a sense that says, if the people who buy the book get to sort of have a seminar where we can sort of talk about it together, and you can sort of talk about it with me, maybe somewhere like this, and
whereas I can promise, if anyone buys my book of erotica, they can go off and do it themselves.
Let's end it that.
You're on your own, new reader. Sorry.
No, please. No, please. Absolutely. So yeah, and I think we'll just spend the next couple of weeks just promoting the hell out of this, because it's been really cool. It is just been, this is the moment, I suppose, in a lot of ways. So thank you so much, Jillian GODSIL'S. It's been brilliant. It's been really exciting. And people who are watching, please, like and subscribe if you support what we're doing and support this show, as well as other things will probably be coming up on this channel over the next few months, few weeks. We're not sure yet. We're all pretty tired. And importantly, share the video with someone that you think will benefit, or someone that disagrees with what we're talking about. I sort of switched my tune a few weeks ago to sort of say, I don't just share with people who agree. I want people in the comments to be saying, that's wrong, this doesn't make sense, this won't work. So and because what, with echo chambers, what we need more than ever is we need people to disagree with each other. We need people to open conversation, rather than people like us, just sort of padding, congratulating ourselves, which is great, but if there is going to be that shift in public consciousness, we need the people who disagree to be exposed to this sort of stuff and what we're doing. Absolutely. And and please watch other episodes and all the rest of it. And it's been a crazy week, and I think I'm going to go off and buy a cocktail now that I'm done with this. So thanks so much, Jillian. Okay, you've been great. And thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you next time.
Brilliant.